Kurogane Ikki is one of many things, and that includes being the least student at Hagun Academy, ranking beautifully at the bottom as the F ranker, also nicknamed the worst one. Another interesting fact about Kurogane, he stands for equality, which is why the day he accidentally walks into Stella Vermilion, undressing, he decides to strip along with her, settling the score of 50-50. This action of Kurogane towards Stella doesn't leave him unpunished. It leads him straight to the director's office for nearly causing a scandal. Also, Hagun Academy is known for being one of the best schools for training Blazers to become Magic Knights. Actually, Blazers are special people who can manifest their souls as weapons, and they also possess powers that grant them supernatural abilities. Despite that fact, every Blazer needed formal recognition to become a Magic Knight, and that's when the Magic Academies come into play. However, it is revealed that Hagun Academy had been dwelling on its lost glory, days when the Academy produced the finest Magic Knights and had some of the best records and students among other night schools. And it appears that the newly assigned director has plans of restoring the Academy to its glory. And how convenient is it that along with her plans comes the arrival of Stella, a princess of the Vermilion Empire. Director Shinguji probably went, why not enroll a prestigious student and give the people something to talk about? After Kurogane's unexpected first encounter with Stella, well, you know what happened. He apologizes about the incident, but instead, Stella asks for his life in exchange for peeping at her underwear. And my man Kurogane claps back at her, saying he refuses to give up his life for something so small. Stella's response? She goes beast mode, expelling dangerous fumes of magic, while slowly approaching Kurogane like when a predator meets its prey. However, Kurogane proves to know the secret to calm a vicious lion. Because all that emotion Stella had cools down immediately, he confesses how beautiful the sight of her in that underwear was. Well, that is when Shinguji comes into the scene, making the most shocking announcement that this beautiful mix-up occurred because henceforth they were to share a room together. Although Kurogane points out that roommates were meant to be in the same rank, but not his F-rank bum being tied with A-rank sensation Stella. Yeah, we also didn't expect he'd be the scum of the school. What's the worst that could happen anyway? Shinguji was merely bringing the weakest kid in the academy together with an outstanding student. We also see that she hopes Kurogane could pick some things from Stella, but then she gives an outrageous option. Apparently, they had the choice to drop out if they were not comfortable with the pairing. Ma'am, please, where can I apply to this academy? Of course, Kurogane now had to be careful of Stella, who gives him absurd rules including not breathing next to her. And while the two squabble, Shinguji suggests an amazing idea of a mock battle between the F and A rank students to decide the ruler of the room. The whole idea behind this mock battle kind of seems like Shinguji was peacefully handing the room's rulership to Stella. Of course, who'd she expect to win when the F rank had very minimal chances? And Stella doesn't miss a chance to brag about having the upper hand in the competition. She even goes as far as making things a lot more interesting, announcing that the loser had to become a servant to the winner for the rest of their lives. Soon, word spreads about the mock battle between the A rank and the weakest student in the school, and boy do some spectators arrive at the arena to get a good laugh. But it seems Kurogane is more than a wrapped up mess. He plans to take advantage of the mock battle, but how? All we know is the fight is an opportunity to check this recent progress with hopes of becoming a knight by winning the 7-star fight festival, in place of his poor records. So, the battle begins pretty seriously, and both students use their summoned weapons against each other. Although, for an F-ranker, Kurogane moves as fast as light, giving the princess a more difficult time than she expected. Where did he get all that stamina from? She wondered, as she attacked him with her ultimate power. However, Kurogane skillfully evades everything, giving Stella a final slash that sends her kneeling. By the time Stella opens her eyes again, she's receiving treatment in the hospital. Just then, Shinguji walks in to check on her. Bet what was going through Stella's mind was, why didn't you give me a heads up? I'm pretty sure that Shinguji didn't expect it though. Stella was a formidable opponent, but some people are simply just better than others. When she's healed and good to go, she retires to her shared room with Kurogane, who sleeps soundly after he had expended all his energy during their fight. From Shinguji, she comes to know about the unfair ranking system that only measures one's abilities as a blazer, and not their swordplay or speed, which is quite unfair to Kurogane being ranked F. Meanwhile, something spectacular was happening at the moment. It was the first time Stella had been up close to a man's body. For someone who called Kurogane a pervert, she enjoyed the feel of his body while getting lewd images of him. That should have been me, bruh. Shockingly, Kurogane wakes up the same minute, stunning Stella that her head meets the bunk bed. After administering treatment, Stella didn't have to chew hot rocks before admitting how great Kurogane was. She apologizes for not seeing way beyond his rank, and the two of them pretty much get along. Actually, Kurogane doesn't simply let that slide. How about the loser becoming the winner's slave princess? Guess what Stella comes up with? That it was merely a figure of speech. Women and lack of accountability. However, the command he gives Stella is to become the best roommate, and things pretty much kicked off from there. They also performed the sacred act of sharing a water bottle, an act that made Stella's cheeks stained red. So, it's finally time for their first lecture, and the professor introduces herself as Yuri. Yuri is, quite strange looking. Aside from the fact she looked like she hadn't gotten good sleep in ages, she was pretty much okay. Along with her introduction, she informs the class about an inter-school competition that would be held soon. Apparently, the school will be selecting the top 6 students from a combat contest as its representatives, rather than using Blazer rankings, with each student's participation completely voluntary. And it seems that Kurogane got ties with Yuri when he visits her in the hospital after she spilled blood in class. Although, it's revealed to be a medical condition where she vomits about a liter of blood every day despite looking unhealthy. After their visit, Stella is about to inquire on something spectacular about his conversation with Yuri, when this mini creature with huge melons rushes for Kurogane's arm. Kagame confesses to being a huge fan of Kurogane after witnessing his match against Stella. Meanwhile, Stella didn't appreciate Kagame's grip on her roommate. We see her walking away visibly pissed. Speak about entitlement. Don't look back, Stella, because here comes the arrival of another lass, Shizuku. Actually, she's a new student and siblings with Kurogane, who happens to greet him with a wet kiss. You can imagine how horrified Stella and the spectating students must be, while Kagami goes ahead to take photos of the scandal. So, it's well proven that Shizuku has a really lewd concept of sibling-to-sibling communication. Also, in a fit of rage, Stella exposes the fact that she was now a slave to Kurogane. Talk about a huge scandal. Meanwhile, Kagami was there just for the tea. As if that wasn't enough, guess where the girls end up after a heated weapon exchange? Cleaning all 27 female toilets in the facility. Although, after another heated exchange between the two, Stella finds out a bit about Kurogane's past when he was treated like he didn't exist. Luckily, Kurogane was ready to tell her about it anyways. From his story, he was born into the line of the great hero, Ryoma Kurogane, where every generation produced excellent blazers. Well, that is of course himself, who was an exception. This turn of events made his family totally shun his existence, and one day, he decided to turn his back away from it all. Just when he was at the peak of giving up, Ryoma appeared before him with the kindest words that made harnessed his will to become a great magic knight like him. Later, Kurogane gets a special servant wash from Stella. Man, I wish that was me. Also, Shizuku finds solace in her roommate, Alice, whose gender is pretty much male, I'm guessing? It's a lecture-free day. Actually, I'm kidding. It's the weekend, and just before Stella gets the opportunity to ask Kurogane out on a date, Shizuku beats her to it. However, the undefeated Stella accompanies Kurogane. While he goes shopping with Shizuku, turns out she also brings her backup, Alice. Yet again, the girls have another side exchange over Kurogane, but it is unknown to them that Alice, who is a male physically but a female at heart, already had his eyes on Kurogane. Which turns out to be a joke, of course, because Shizuku would have beheaded him. They have lunch at a sweet cafe where the girls have yet another tussle over Kurogane's affection. And then later, the boys retreat to the restroom where Kurogane thanks Alice for being Shizuku's friend, despite the difficult child she was. Unfortunately, the mall is ambushed by armed men, but luckily, the boys get away using Alice's blazer of shadow manipulation. After observing the issue, Shinguji gives Kurogane and his friends temporary recognition as magic knights, before using their powers in public, which could be a dream come true for Kurogane, but instead, he is more worried about girls. Meanwhile, the girls are held captive alongside women and children by Bisho, the leader of a group of crime organization with blazers. Stella, who couldn't bear the injustice being done, intervenes on a woman's behalf. Unfortunately, Bisho takes this as a means of entertainment for his men, asking her to strip naked and plead. Just then, Shizuku successfully creates a barrier to protect the hostages, leaving Kurogane and the others to finish up. However, there's a loophole to their attack when another one of Bisho's men secretly takes a woman captive. Just then, there's a new arrival of a blazer to the scene, dealing the final blow, and in the person of arrogant Kirihara, who turns out to be an old acquaintance of Kurogane and his first opponent in the combat selection. The first tier of the combat selection for the first year has its winners as Shizuku, Alice, and Stella, whose opponent forfeited even before the fight began. Also, it seems like Shizuku and Stella might have come to a settlement. I mean, what could join two girls who can't stand themselves other than the hatred for a boy, Kirihara? Later, Stella joins Kurogane as he runs an analysis on his future opponent. Alongside Stella's distaste for him, Kirihara proves to be a formidable opponent, with the ability to sneak in and out of the battlefield undetected. It is also revealed that Kirihara had engaged in a fight with Kurogane in the previous school year, with the purpose of triggering him to break the rules and get expelled, according to the former director's wishes, who had a problem with Kurogane's enrollment into Hagun Academy. It's match day, and just when you thought Kirihara, the C-ranked blazer, couldn't get more despicable, he turns the ring into an area invisible with his blazer. Despite Kirihara's applied stealth with flying arrows, Kurogane remains in the fight. However, Kirihara continuously evolves, fatally piercing him with arrows and stirring up the crowd to mock Kurogane. Just then, an emotional Stella silences the crowd with a tone so fierce, defending and cheering the knight she loves. Every man needs this encouragement from a woman, alright? The next time Kurogane stands up to his feet, he finds the loophole in Kirihara's attack, like he infiltrated his thoughts and apprehended each arrow. In the end, Kurogane is pronounced the winner and falls to the floor, weakened. Before the episode ends, Kurogane awakens in the hospital with Stella by his side. They express their feelings for each other with a kiss and promise to grow stronger together. This recap began with both characters sharing a somewhat intimate moment, and it's ending with a more sweet one. See you thirsty folks in the next recap.